this is the conversation I'm proud to have between now and November, because that's our guy, and that's the way it's going to stay.
Take a look at what has been accomplished under this president. And I can tell you close up and personally, the contrast couldn't be greater.
I trust Joe Biden with my daughter's future. So what we need to do as Democrats, we need to not worry, we need to work.
Welcome back to America Decides. You just heard from several lawmakers in Pennsylvania who still say President Biden has what it takes to win this November. Let's bring on our political panel to discuss. Etienne and Hogan Gidley. Ashley served as communications director for Vice President Kamala Harris, and Hogan was the White House deputy press secretary for the Trump administration and was also on the former president's 2020 campaign. Two people who I couldn't be more excited to talk to on this monumental day, it seems. Ashley, I want to start with you because we heard from those lawmakers there in Pennsylvania, obviously key swing state for the president's reelection chances. You heard that support, but the dissent is growing on Capitol Hill. So how do Democrats possibly make the case to voters that they should show up for Joe Biden when Democrats are saying that they have a lot of reservations about him?
Well, I mean, I always think that it matters who. You know, not all members, I hate to say this, are made equally, and not every member's objection should be weighed the same as others. What I mean by that is if you see defections among the frontline members, those who are in those seats where they could potentially lose, that weighs heavier in the consideration for the president than a random member who's in a safe seat, if that makes any sense. So for me, I caution looking at the number. Rather, what's most important is who is defecting and who do they bring with them. If you're ahead of a caucus, for example, that could be a problem, or frontline members. But now it feels like the president is coalescing his support, that he's consolidating most of his support. Just today, I'm hearing that the CBC is standing firm with the president, the biggest caucus within, the biggest body within the Democratic caucus right now, a key constituency that the president needs to come out and vote and actually win the next election. So that seems to be going well. But I will just say one thing, if you don't mind me adding this, is the president did send a letter up to Congress. I'm sure we're going to get into that. He was really forceful in that letter, saying he's in it to win it. You know, don't overlook him. Let's not, any distraction from that is a win for Trump and not for the Democratic Party. But the one thing I'm hearing from members is the letter's not enough. Like, it's nice, it's somewhat stop the bleeding, but they need to touch and feel Joe Biden. They need to see him in person in order to know and feel secure that he actually can do the job. So that's what I'm hearing from members now. They like the letter, but it's not enough.
Yeah, and you're hearing that as they're coming back to Washington today and putting out some statements saying that they need to hear more from him. Hogan, Donald Trump seems to be following a political rule this week, which is when your opponent is flailing, let them kind of flail, essentially. We haven't really seen or heard from former President Trump since the day after the debate. He's expected to have a rally tomorrow in Florida. But what's the strategy there? What do you make of his kind of, you know, standing to the side here? Yeah, well, I think you hit on it, and everyone understands that. That's kind of a rule in politics. When your opponent is messing up, let them mess up. And Joe Biden clearly has some problems here within his own party and his own caucus. And you're absolutely right, Ashley. I mean, you can see people coming out of the woodwork saying Joe Biden should not be the nominee. He doesn't need to go forward with this. But I've long said I don't think that's a strategy that's going to work. I think you're going to see stalwarts like Nancy Pelosi, who you've already seen, Chuck Schumer and others come out and say, no, he's our guy. Now Fetterman is saying he's our guy. You may not know this, but elected officials care about one thing first, and that's getting reelected. And a lot of folks out there who are concerned about their own reelection may be trying to push Joe Biden to the side. I mean, John Tester, for heaven's sakes, is running ads against Joe Biden. That was even before the debate performance that was so bad. So a lot of people are worried about their own political future, which I think is a lot of the impetus for coming out and saying Joe Biden should move to the side. Yeah, you remember I worked for Nancy Pelosi, and there were a lot of objections to her. Yeah. And she would always say, listen, say what you need to say about me, but just win. Just come back as a winner, because we need to maintain and keep the body. And I think that's where you'll see some of these Democrats that can't sort of, you know, they're going to have to object to Joe Biden in the interest of winning, and to some degree that might be okay for him. I mean, you mentioned this letter, Ashley, and we have it here. I mean, Biden was really defiant in this letter and kind of calling anybody, criticizing him as part of the elite. Is that really the way to go here? I mean, the calls are coming from inside the House, really.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think what really concerns me more than anything else, and, this is sort of probably a little provocative for me to say, but, if we are to believe what the president said, that it's an episodic and it's not a condition, then we should be anticipating that another episode will happen again. And, and the challenge there is that it could be more catastrophic, or it could be at a time when we have no more time left on the clock. And so that's the risk that we're running. And so that's really what the president has to convince not just the Democratic Party and the members, but the donor class as well as the grassroots that he's worth taking that risk.
And how is Trump kind of playing this? I mean, they clearly want to run against Biden.
Sure. Well, I mean, look, I think Trump would obviously say whoever it is, he's going to be just fine because the policies matter most to the American people. But the catch-22 here on the left is clear. They want him out more, so you can see how great he is. The problem is a lot of people close to him have prevented him from going out because they're afraid, as Ashley said, it is episodic and you will see another episode. Trump, on the other hand, is sitting there going, wait, we have a big convention coming up. We want to stick the landing here. We don't want to make an announcement of a VP or anything too soon because we want to let them continue to flail around on the left and try and find their footing. This has been one of the worst news cycles I've ever seen, especially for someone on the left as it relates to their arguments with the press. That briefing today was brutal. It got hot in a hurry. And she even yelled at a lot of folks. I think one of your colleagues at CBS. It was fascinating to watch her implode like that.
I mean, to that point, though, do you think, your conversations with Trump and the campaign, are they watching how this plays out to make any decisions about who they're going to choose for their running mate?
Well, I think right now, from everything I understand, they're prepared for a lot of the eventualities that are being floated around in the media, whether it be pushing Joe Biden aside and allowing the vice president to take the lead, whether they bring in somebody else, a Gavin Newsom or someone. I think they're preparing for a lot of those different things. Tough to do, obviously, because you don't know what's going to eventually happen. But I do think all this settles over the next several weeks, and I think Joe Biden maintains some strength and some power on the Democrat base, and they go with him, for better or worse, all the way to November.
And just quickly, Ashley, is that your assumption as well?
Absolutely. I think the other outstanding question is because NATO's here, the president's engaging with world leaders, where are they going to come out over the next week? Are they going to come out in the next couple of days and support the president in a very robust way? If I were working in the White House, I'd be working the phones to try to get some of these leaders to come out and endorse the president. I mean, you got to utilize the moment that you have and really kind of bring everybody together and bolster the president. So that's what I'm going to be watching as well.
Yeah, the world quite literally watching this week to see what happens.
And here in town.
Exactly. Ashley and Hogan, we have plenty more to discuss, and we will continue to do it over the next few months. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Thanks.